Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today on this not raining Wednesday, but it's definitely cloudy here today. My name is Megan Medlin. I'm the founder of H.I.R.E, which is the hub for integration, re-entry, and employment. We offer resources, employment assistance, mentorship, and a whole range of other things for individuals who are justice involved. This is part of our financial workshop series. And so we have the special honor of Daniel Rodriguez from BMO Bank with us today, who's going to lead us through, I believe today's budgeting and crediting, credit, correct? And so it's meant to be interactive. So if you guys have questions, feel free to ask questions, type things in the chat. This is recorded, so we will post it on the website afterwards in case anybody wants to circle back to it or ask any questions. But with that, Daniel, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Let me go ahead and bring up the presentation here, making sure you guys can you guys see it? Okay, awesome. Oop. All right, let me make this bigger. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome everyone to our budgeting workshop. As Megan mentioned, my name is Daniel Rodriguez. I'm with BMO. And with that, Happy New Year to everyone as well. We know sometimes no matter how much you work, it can feel hard to manage your money and get ahead with your finances. So today we'll learn the basics of budgeting. We will explore the importance of creating and maintaining a budget, examine the differences between wants and needs, and set goals for spending, saving, and debt management. So with that, let's get started. So let's review our goals for the workshop first. So today, we're going to explore the importance of creating and maintaining a budget. 2, examine the differences between wants and needs. And 3, set goals for spending, savings, and debt repayment. Since you may not have all the necessary information to build your own budget right now, we will use scenarios with a character named Martha to help us learn about how and practice using a budget. So managing and improving your personal finances are achievable goals. This workshop will teach us some steps and strategies to budget wisely and productively. So first of all, we're going to meet Martha. So Martha is 40 years old, works 2 jobs to make ends meet. She works as a cashier at a grocery store during the week, and on the weekends, she works as a hostess in a restaurant. Martha makes $2,000 a month, but sometimes she struggles with her finances. She feels like she just keeps paying her credit card bills, but she doesn't ever seem to be able to pay them off or get ahead. So Martha has some short and long-term financial goals too. She dreams of taking a vacation next summer and eventually buying her own home. Let's see how we can help Martha. So as you can see, Martha is frustrated because she feels like it's hard to get ahead with her finances, right? As I mentioned before, she makes $2,000 per month in net income, and she's having some difficulties. So how can Martha help herself get ahead? So some of the things that she needs to do is make a financial plan, make a budget, have savings, live within her means, and finally reduce her debt. Now, today, we're going to help Martha set a budget. So let's find out how she can get started. So as I just mentioned, right, I described that she has a $2,000 monthly net income. But for some, do you know what that really means? So I'll quickly explain that here. So gross income refers to the amount of money you earn before anything is taken out for taxes. And your net income is sometimes also called your take-home pay. So this is the money you get in your paycheck. Money is taken out of your gross pay to cover your taxes and benefits. And then the money that's left over is your take-home pay. So when we talk about Martha, she makes $2,000 in net income. So that's the money that she has after taxes to cover all her expenses. So this figure will help us later in the workshop when we help Martha create a budget. Next, we'll learn about the benefits of budgeting. So budgeting is the process of creating a plan to spend your money. So budgeting can help you in these ways. Budgeting helps you live within your means. So what I mean by that is when you budget your money, you create a clear picture of where your money is going. By using a budget, you can see where you might be spending too much money in a certain area and change your money habits for the future. Secondly, budgeting helps you pay down your debt. By reviewing your budget, you can set a plan to pay down your debt, and that budget can help you stay on track as you make payments and help chart a path to get out of debt. And then finally, budgeting also is going to help you save for the future and for some emergencies. So with budgeting, it's going to help you save money towards your financial goals. And then plus, it can also help you in case you have an unexpected financial emergency. For example, a car breaking down or a surprise trip to the hospital, right? You suffer an injury and now you're going to the hospital. So if you budget for emergency savings, you won't have to put up expenses on your credit cards. Next, we'll learn more about Martha's wants and needs. So Martha's feeling frustrated and needs some help with her finances. The first step Martha can do is track her current spending so she can see where she is spending her money. Martha decides to take a look at some of the items she has been spending money on. So she makes a list of all her monthly expenses. So now we're going to figure out Martha's wants and needs. Take a look at the list on the screen. And in the chat, which ones do you think are wants and needs? And not all of them, just pick a couple that you think are either wants or needs. All right, perfect. So now that you see all the items here, go ahead and separate them as far as what is considered a want and what is considered a need. Sometimes we do hear that clothing is sometimes sometimes clothing is considered a want, right? But sometimes in a scenario, for example, you might consider a winter coat. Coat could be a want, but if you suddenly move to a cold climate, then guess what? That want now becomes a need because you're living in a colder climate and you need a coat. Next, we'll see how she can cut some of her expenses. So now that we've figured out what is a want and what it is a need for Martha, let's figure out exactly how much her wants and needs are costing her and see where she can free up funds. So as we look at the list here of expenses, I've added the amounts for Martha's wants and needs. As you can see from the figures, the total of Martha's needs are $1,485, and the total amount of Martha's wants are $300. Or $330, I'm sorry. Now, based on the information, do you think that Martha is living within her means? Perfect. So based on the figures, it appears that Martha's living within her means, right? However, she hasn't accounted for paying down debt, which we will discuss later in the workshop here. Even though Martha's, she's living there, again, we want to make sure that she has some places also not only to pay down debts, but to also save some money. So there are some places where Martha could save money on her wants, but like us, we all deserve to have some fun once in a while, right? So the key is to balance out your spending so you have room in your budget for your wants. So like Martha, we can all save money on wants by using some money saving strategies to free up funds. We will review some of those strategies now. First strategy, cutting expenses. The first thing you can do to free up some funds is to find places where you can cut your expenses. Take a good look at your wants and how much you are spending on things like eating out and make some small changes or cut where you can. So the example with Martha, right? She's spending about $60 on coffee. And if she wants to, that's a want. So maybe potentially she can cut her coffee needs down or even brew coffee at home to save some money there. Second strategy, reduce spending, right? So take a look at your other expenses or needs. Can you reduce a grocery bill by meal planning, shopping at a discount grocery store? I know that's kind of big in California now. We see a lot of grocery outlets, the 99 cents only stores. There's just some ways that you can save and also still eat healthy as well. And also, have you considered cutting coupons? I use coupons. I'm not afraid to say that because there is some great savings benefits to that as well. And that'll help you reduce that spending. The third strategy, price shop for services, right? Consider finding a better deal on car insurance rates by shopping around or changing health insurance plans so you have a lower monthly payment, but a higher deductible. Number four, think about a new job. I know sometimes, you can think about your current employment status, your skill set, and the job market. Are you in a position to earn a raise? Is there something you could do to increase your marketability, like taking a class, learning a new skill, maybe actually using some resources that are available for free online, right? Like LinkedIn to get some exposure to make yourself more marketable as well. And then finally, consider a freelance or gig work. If you're just looking for some supplemental income in addition to your current job, consider taking a gig, or as they call it, right, side hustle in your field. And that way you free up some more of your funds. Now, Martha decided to reduce her spending and consider looking for a new job opportunity, where she could use her skills and make more money. Next, we are going to focus on Martha's debts. So Martha has identified where she can make some changes to her spending habits and where she can free up some funds. But Martha also has the debts she needs to pay down that was not included in her initial list of wants and needs, right? So now she needs to be able to pay off, to be able to live within her means, and otherwise she is using credit cards to supplement her income. So as we look on the screen, Martha has student loan payment and credit card payments that she also needs to take into account. She has been paying the minimum balance on her credit cards for a while, but doesn't seem to be able to pay them off. So Martha would like the opportunity to pay one of her credit cards so she feels like she's getting ahead. Now we'll look at two popular strategies that Martha can use to pay off this debt. They are the avalanche method and the snowball method. And I'll talk in a little bit of detail about each of these strategies here. So the two main debt management strategies are avalanche method and the snowball method. When you use the avalanche method, you list your debts in order from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate and pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. In Martha's case, if she used the avalanche method, she would pay off credit card A first, since the card has a higher interest rate, right? Using this approach, Martha will save more money in the long term, but it will take some time. The other debt management strategy is the snowball method. To use the snowball method, you list debts in order from smallest balance to largest balance and pay the smallest debt off first. If Martha used the snowball method on her debts, she would pay off credit card B first, right? Because it's the smallest. At first glance, it seems like the avalanche method makes the most sense financially because we're avoiding paying those higher interest rates, right? Because we're trying to clear the debt from those higher interest charging credit cards. After all, it appears that this method would save Martha the most money in the long run. So out of curiosity, why would you use the snowball method? It's okay. I know it's new information, so it's definitely sometimes hard to see which one works the best. But from a snowball method perspective, research has also shown that psychological factors play a role in paying off debt. So even paying off a smaller balance can make you feel good, right, about yourself and motivate you to continue to pay down your debt. So now let's look at Martha's debts again. Considering all that you know about Martha and her debts, which method do we think would work best for her? Do we think in the chat, do you think the avalanche method or snowball method will work best for her? Interesting. I see some snowball. So the snowball method may help Martha feel like she's making progress because she could potentially pay off one credit card, right? Credit card B, the one that had a smaller balance, in about 1 to 3 months. However, if she decides to pay more for credit card A, which is a higher interest rate, she'd be using the avalanche method, and that'll help her save more money in the long run. But it may not help her stay motivated. So I like the snowball method as well. For some people, it just works better, right? Now that Martha has a plan to pay down her debts, she can look forward to her financial goals. So now Martha learned how to figure out her wants and needs, cut her expenses to save money, and work on paying down her debt. But she also has some financial dreams. So let's see how Martha can turn those dreams into financial goals. So changing money habits can be challenging, right? We all know that's a struggle that we all deal with. So one way to make change easier and more lasting is to set personal and meaningful goals to motivate you. So financial goals are personal goals you set for yourself about how you will save and spend your money. These goals can be both things you hope to achieve in the short term or things to achieve further down the road. So, for example, the three financial goals that you can set for yourself to really help you get down this path of supporting that new budget is creating three different types of categories of goals, right? First one, short-term goals. What can be accomplished in a few months or up to 2 years? Medium-term goals. These typically can be accomplished in 2 to 5 years. And then finally, long-term goals can be accomplished in more than 5 years. So in Martha's example, she told us that her short-term goal is to save for a friend's wedding present, buy a new phone, and pay off credit cards. Her medium term goal is pay off her student loans that we saw, buy a new computer, and take a vacation. And then finally, one of Martha's passions is to actually own her own home as well. So one of her long-term goals is to save for down payment on a house and also buy a new car. So setting financial goals can be fun and exciting to think about. Now, for those in the in attendance here, create your own financial goals. Think about, hey, what do I want to accomplish in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term? We don't have to share them now, but it's just kind of a good idea to get you in the practice of actually creating those goals. And now you have what we call SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, results driven, and in a timely manner. So set up those short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals as you see fit, and now you have a reason to really strive for those. Now, here's the other thing too. When you see those goals written down, right, as I just mentioned, you're one step closer to making those goals into a reality. Having financial goals can help you plan by adjusting some of your current spending and saving habits. We all know that saving is a challenge, but it'll be worth it, right? Now that you've actually written down what some of your goals are. So now in Martha's case, we have an idea of what she wants to spend her money on, what her debts are, her financial goals. We can introduce some guidelines on how to help her create her budget and how you can create your own budget. This is I love. So there are many budget strategies you can use, but today we're going to focus on the 50-30-20 rule and the categories method of budgeting. While there are two different methods, each has helpful strategies to help you make a budget. So the first one is the 50-30-20 rule. This is a budgeting rule designed to be easy to follow without using a lot of numbers, right? So the rule works by dividing up your after-tax income and recommending that you spend no more than 50% of your income on needs, no more than 30% on wants, and finally, at least 20% on savings or debt repayment. Now let's use this method to look at Martha's financial situation, right? And figure out how this method would work. So as you recall, Martha takes home $2,000 after taxes. According to the 50-30-20 rule, how much money should Martha spend on her needs? So I'll give you guys three options and you can put your answer in the chat. So based on that 50% rule of her net income, we have $1,000, $600, and $400. How much can she spend on her needs? All right, so the correct answer is no more than 50%, right? So in Martha's case of her income of $2,000, the max she could spend based on the rule is $1,000. Now, according to the rule again, the 50-30-20 rule, how much can Martha spend on her wants? I'll use the same numbers again, $1,000, $600, or $400. I think we have calculators now, so it makes it a little bit easier. But sometimes when you want to use mental math, right, and I kind of like this method, if you want to calculate 30% of Martha's income, write down the dollar amount with a decimal point, right? So $2,000 dot or period 00. Move the decimal point one place to the left, and that's how you get 10%. So in this case, if we write out $2,000 dot 00, move the decimal point once to the left, you find that number to be $200, which is 10%. So now you'd multiply 10% of that 10% amount by 3 to get 30%, right? So 200 times 3 gets us to what her wants number is, which is $600. And then finally, the last one should be pretty easy. So according to the rule, how much would Martha spend on her savings and her debt repayment? $1,000, $600, or $400? Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. Now let's look at Martha's expenses again and see how the 50-30-20 rule will work for Martha. So as you can see now, right, these are the new amounts based on the 50-30-20 rule. So these numbers might look a little bit different than before. As you can see on the column on the right side of the screen, you will now see that some of Martha's expenses have been cut down. So as you can see originally, right, when we talked about her coffee expenses, this number was a lot higher. Her restaurant wants also was cut down. So to kind of make the she's working on her budget and really cutting down on some expenses. So now she has some flexibility to cover some of that debt. So now if we look at this model now using the 50-30 rule, you can see, right, that Martha should spend no more than 50% or $1,000 on needs using that rule. However, if you see here, she's currently spending $1,140 on needs after making these cuts, right? Some of the cuts Martha could make include moving somewhere with lower rent, considering alternative grocery options to reduce cost, exploring using public transportation or carpooling, trading in her car for something that's more affordable, shopping around for less car insurance as well. And then in the right-hand column, we have made some cuts for Martha to demonstrate some areas where she could save money, right? However, she's still not at that $1,000 budget according to the rule. So now let's look at Martha's wants. Previously, she was spending $330 on her wants. This is still below the 30% threshold of $600, right? Which is really great. However, by making some cuts to her expenses, Martha can get that money down even further to this $200 number here, which means she can consider using that extra $120 that she's saving by cutting down on those wants to help her cover her financial goals or to pay off her debts. Now, as you remember, the rule as well allocates 20% or $400 of Martha's income that needs to be used to pay down debts and also for her savings. So if you see there, she is currently making $300 in debt payments, right? So therefore, she has the flexibility to put $100 into her savings account each month. So as you can see, the 50-20-30 rule may identify some areas where you could reduce spending, right? But it can also help you find additional money in your budget to put towards savings and debt repayment goals. And being realistic, right? Sometimes this won't work perfectly. As in Martha's case, she's still spending more than $1,000 on needs, right? Now, there is another budget strategy that we'll discuss next called the categories method. Let's examine Martha's budget using the categories method. And I'll go through what the categories method is first. So the categories method is a more detailed breakdown of percentages and categories, and it allocates income according to the need of a person or a household. So by thinking about specific categories you spend on each month, you can predict how much of your income will be left over for savings and make adjustments to meet your goals. So this one has a couple more percentages. So a typical budget that we recommend is, allocate 30% for housing, 10% for your utilities, 10% for groceries, 10% for transportation, including your car loan, 10% for debt management, 10% for your savings, and then some of the needs, right, on the right-hand side, 5% for dining out, 5% for your insurance and miscellaneous auto expenses, 5% for clothing, and finally 5% for entertainment. So now let's look at these percentages based on Martha's budget. Now we're going to find out if this type of method works for her or if it could work for her. So as you can see, the categories method would work out for Maria using her updated figures, right, with her potential budget cuts. So housing, that we have 30% for that, which is $600, but she's only spending $500. So we already see some savings there based on this model, right? Utilities, she's from her $2,000. We think that 10% is $200, but she's only spending $75 on her utilities. Groceries, she's 10% of that would be $200, but she's actually only spending $100 on groceries, right? So the method here seems to work a lot better for her because now she's finding ways how the categories method, she's saving money already off the bat based on her existing expenditures. Now, this is all about, so the category method is more so focused on adaptability, right? So these categories can be easily adjusted to suit your personal needs. So for example, you may have childcare, educational expenses, or you may have no debt. So your numbers will probably be a lot different than this, and that's okay. You can still set guidelines and categories to fit your own situation. And like I always like to tell people, there's no one size fits all strategy, right? For budgeting or anything in life. Feel free to find the best budget solution for that best works for you. So next, we'll talk about how we can increase our savings over time. It can be challenging to remember to save money over time. We all know this, right? Because we're all responsible for paying down our debts and things of that sort. So I know it's challenging, but remember, with savings, any progress is good progress, right? And one of the quotes that I've heard from a Denzel Washington movie, aim for progress, not perfection. So you don't need to set aside a huge sum of money all at once. Savings works best when you plan for it and take steps towards your financial goals. So if we go back to Martha's scenario, right? Martha told us that she needs to save for a couple different goals. Her short-term goal was to save for a friend's wedding present, buy that phone, and pay off credit cards, right? And then if we remember, her medium-term goal was to pay off student loans, buy a new computer, take a vacation, and then finally, one of her long-term goals was to save for down payment on a house and buy a new car. So we know, right, that Martha doesn't have a lot of money to devote to savings each month, but she wants to start building her savings so she can reach her goals by living within her means. So here are some strategies you can use to save more money each month. So make a habit of saving is key, right? That's the number one thing. What's the rule? Once you do something a certain amount of times, it becomes repetitive and you start getting used to it. So make it a habit. Decide on an amount you'll want to save each month and stick to it. So you get used to putting that money into your savings account. A second way you can kind of condition yourself to start saving is use an automatic savings plan. An automatic savings plan is a type of savings account where money is automatically transferred right into your savings at certain times each month. And this can help you ensure that you're meeting your savings goals. And every financial institution has that program, right? So if you're interested in maybe it being a little bit easier for your savings to continue to grow, talk to your banker at your bank and say, hey, I want to start setting up an automatic savings plan where every time I receive my paycheck, can you automatically send $25, $50, or $100 to my savings account? So now you're no longer thinking about it. It just becomes an automatic savings plan where we're hoping that at the end of the year, you've saved enough where you feel comfortable meeting your short, medium, and long-term goals. And then finally, this is the most challenging for everyone, I think, limit spending, right? Spending less can make your savings goals easier. So try to cut back on a few things. Instead of going to Starbucks every day, maybe go to Starbucks once a week. And so, as I mentioned, we did cover a lot of things in the amount of time that we've been together here. But a lot of these tools and strategies and behaviors can positively affect your personal finances if you try to use them regularly. I encourage you to take time to use these tools to improve and maintain your finances. And then we will also be sharing, I will also be sharing the deck with Megan if anyone would like to receive it sent to them via email as well. So you have it handy. Now, some key takeaways, right? Improving your personal financial situation is achievable with thoughtful attention, regular maintenance, and improved habits. As I talked about today, there are many tools you can use to make a budget. For this workshop, we gave you a sample budget guide. So you'll be able to kind of use Martha's model to see how it can help you develop your own budget. And then remember, there are a lot of strategies again, right, about budgeting. But the important thing is that you use one to manage your spending, savings, and debt repayment. So whichever one of those two you think is easier for you to use, feel free to use those, or also consider using additional budgeting strategies as well. And I think the biggest thing for I like to talk about is when approaching your debt repayment, consider strategies like the avalanche method or the snowball method, whichever one you think makes more sense to you. Please utilize one of those methods, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that not only you have a budget, you're living within your means, but you're also paying down your debt. And then finally, I would say, set some personal, meaningful goals to help you stay motivated and on track. I suggest doing regular check-ins, seeking help from professionals, or additional ways to become more informed and aware of your financial situation and options. So please rely on your resources, your financial institutions that you partner with. Talk to your banker. Hey, how can you help me build some strategies around budgeting? And with that, we'll end today a little bit early, actually.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. As always, a wealth of information. So for those here, and as Daniel mentioned, we will do a follow-up email with the recording and with the slides. It'll also be posted on our YouTube and on our website under the Client Workshops tab, if you guys are interested. And for those that are also interested, we have a lot of exciting workshops and events coming up this year. So our next month calendar that we have on the 13th, so February 13th, we are hosting a entrepreneurial workshop with our friends at Wells Fargo. So they will be teaching us on how to start your own business and kind of the importance of being an entrepreneur. On the 17th, so February 17th, we have our time volunteering event. So if you guys are interested in giving back to the community, we do have an event which we will be working with OC Habitat doing a restoration project out in Huntington Beach. So all this information is on our website as well. And then rounding up the end of the month, Daniel will be back with us on the 28th. And we're going to be talking about, now that you guys learned about the importance of budgeting, we're going to be talking about how to make your budget work for you. So all those are on our website. If you guys want to sign up, or if you have questions or need more information, you can always contact us, info@hireoc.org, or our website, which is on my screen on the backside, hireoc.org. So thank you guys again for coming. And Daniel, again, thank you for all the great information. We're so appreciative. And we will see you all next month.
Thank you, everyone.